Okay, will everyone take their seats, please? Good morning. I'm going to convene this hearing, and seeing that it's the appointed time, 10:00, and of course the on-time caucus is represented here by Ms. Yamada, and she would never, ever forgive me if I didn't start on time. I know a lot of people have busy agendas. This has a military flair to it, the background, and we believe in crossing the line of departure on time, getting the job done, discuss the issues, and keep on track. What I'm going to do, tell you right now, is that we're going to try and keep the speakers to 10 minutes, and so we can move along. And I tell you, anyone that's been part of this process knows that the people that speak first, they get more time. Because at the end, everyone is worried about the end, and they're pushing them out the door, and it's not fair. So if you're offended by my abruptness, I apologize in advance. I appreciate the turnout. This is something extremely important. What we're going to talk about today, of course, is the issue of veterans and perhaps the way they've been treated. California has the most veterans, as everyone knows. It's 2 million veterans in California, make up 10% of the population, and yet in this day and age, I'm afraid that right now we do have problems with funding. We have funding at a federal level, we have funding at the state level. You know, I read a book, and you military scientists out there might have appreciated it. It was written by a field marshal by the name of von Manstein, who was probably the best German general they ever had. And he quoted Clausewitz. Clausewitz talked a lot about war and veterans, and war being an extension of politics. And politicians are very quick to commit people to war and everything that goes with it. And sometimes when those veterans and those people that serve their countries come back, they are often forgotten once the conflict winds down or it's over. And part of the purpose of this committee is to make sure that we never forget those veterans. And I think today we're going to explore some of those things, and I want to welcome my fellow committee members that have joined me today. I already alluded to Assemblywoman Yamada, and I noticed that Assemblywoman Atkins has joined us, and I'm going to ask them if they want to make some opening statements. Ladies.
Mr. Chairman, I want to thank you and recognize your leadership as our chair and for bringing very important issues forward. I'm looking forward to hearing the testimony this morning. But you also alluded to me being a member of the On-Time Caucus. You know, Colonel Cook and I share that affection for one another. I think he was one of the first members that I met when I came here in 2008. But I call it Shinkansen time. And I would like to just take this opportunity to, if I may, Mr. Chairman, introduce someone who's shadowing me today, who is from Japan. Her name is Aki Osawa, and she's sitting in the audience right now. You know, for her benefit as well, you know, we do run this committee on Shinkansen time. That means when the bullet train says it's leaving at 7:03, it's not 7:02 or 7:04, it's 7:03. So with that, and also my other staff member, Amy Yoshida Strasberg, that's helping us out today. So thank you for indulging me, and I look forward to hearing the testimony.
Thank you. Assemblywoman Atkins.
Thank you, Colonel Cook. I just wanted to say I think it's really important that you have scheduled some of these extra hearings. When we do bills, we don't get the time to actually talk about a broad context of issues, and I was particularly interested to see what we were going to be talking about today. As chair of the Select Committee on Homelessness, which you and the Assemblywoman sit on, and we just did the session in San Diego during the legislative break, you know, these things come together. in my mind. When I asked to be on the Veterans Committee, which it makes sense, I'm from San Diego, but I did it with the idea that there's a lot that we need to bring together in terms of how we look at housing, how we look at ensuring that veterans are registered and signed up for benefits that are due them, and the nexus between housing, health care, homelessness, all these things come together. And so I really just want to thank you for pulling together a piece of the puzzle that I've been wanting to talk about as well. So I just think this is great, and I appreciate your pulling these people together.
Thank you, Tony. And I had some personal problems. I wasn't able to make San Diego, but I want to compliment you for the outstanding hearing and tour that we had in Los Angeles at Skid Row. That was really illuminating, to say the least. So, and I want to welcome right now the Vice Chair, Dr. Pan. We've had our roller skates, and we go from one committee to the other, and he was right behind me. So, Doctor, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you, Colonel Cook, for that welcome, and very excited to be here. And actually, it's going to be a very important hearing to help us try to figure out how we can best serve the vets in our state and who've given so much to our country. Thank you.
Well, I'm gonna start. I noticed we have Assemblywoman Gaines that has joined us, and I want to welcome her and see if she has any opening comments before we kick off the presentation. Thank you for being here. Great, thank you. Well, I'd like to once again welcome everybody and invite up our first speaker that is with us. And if I mispronounce Ms. Williman's first name, I apologize in advance. It's Ulrike, I believe. My German is not very, very good. I believe that's German. And she's the Veterans Service Center Manager, United States Department of Veterans Affairs. And Guten Morgen, please.
Thank you, sir. And actually, it's Uli. Most everybody calls me Uli, ULI.
Okay. Thank you for joining us. I know that coming into this environment where everyone's, you're going to catch the, but I'm sure this is a friendly committee. We're interested in veterans, and what we're always interested in is kind of getting through the red tape and the bureaucracy and find out why we can't. So thank you very much for agreeing to come here. Appreciate it.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak on behalf of the Veterans Benefits Administration. That is a part of VA that deals with the claims as well as the pension claims. As you know, I'm the Service Center Manager of the Oakland Regional Office. A little closer? Okay. I was asked to speak really briefly and very briefly about the claims process itself, just to give you some information on what is going on with claims. Currently, service members, active service members, have 3 different programs that they can choose to file claims on before they even get out, which is new. When I first started with the VA, you could only file a claim after you got out. And that is the Benefits Delivery at Discharge program. That's open to service members between 180 days and 60 days of discharge that have a discharge date. Then we have the Quick Start claim, which is for service members who have a discharge date, but they are within 60 days, so 59 days or less. And then the third program that we are also right now working is the Integrated Disability Evaluation System. That's not on your slide right now. That is a fairly new program, and that basically takes service members who are in the process of getting a medical evaluation board that the military is looking to separate because of disabilities, and basically they get processed through our system where we provide the disability rating prior to the discharge. So we do the exam, the disability rating, and the military basically has a chance to accept or not to accept our decision on disability. So those are the 3 pre-discharge type of claims processes that we have available. And then, of course, a service member may file at any time after discharge, from the first day after they get out to, many, many years after service, if they feel that they have developed a disability or they need pension benefits. The claims process is a pretty cyclical process. When a claim comes in, the first thing that we do as an agency, we put it under control. We make sure that the claim is under electronic control. We know we have received it. It is then visible to the claimant when he calls the 1-800 line or she calls the 1-800 line trying to find out, have you received my claim? After that, we have an evidence phase where basically we spend, and that is where the most claims spend the largest amount of their time, where we gather evidence. That evidence can be as simple as a VA examination. It can include, getting treatment records from private providers, service treatment records, other military information that we need in order to get a claim to the phase that we can make actually a disability or a pension decision. The decision phase, that is when a claim is looked at by a decision maker who has the knowledge to basically come up, with a ruling on whether or not entitlement to benefit exists. And then the last phase is, we call it a promulgation phase, where the decision itself is entered into our systems, the claimant is notified, and the claimant, will get the information, and also if monetary benefits are payable, the monetary benefits at that time start to flow. During most of these phases, we communicate with the claimant mostly in writing, by letters, but also by phone calls, and in some cases electronic means. So that's in short the overall claims process, and specifically I believe I was asked to speak on the issue on how claimants what the VA is doing right now to provide benefits and to connect veterans to their benefits that they have served. So if I may, what we are doing right now, the VA is doing to reach veterans regarding CMP claims. We are present and available currently at national and local events where service members and veterans and their families are located. We have a user-friendly website, and I hope everybody will have a chance to take a look at the website, which provides information and assistance on how to apply for VA benefits, and also online a new program or a new application that we have is eBenefits. It's a portal, an electronic portal that allows a veteran to go in, take a look at what's going on with their claim, as well as file claims, and also gain other information that they need to help with their claim. The regional office also have targeted outreach coordinators to assist specific veteran populations such as women, homeless, former prisoners of war, and elderly. And we make efforts in reaching service members who will soon be released, and that basically is through the conducting briefings through the Transition Assistance Program, the TAP program as it's generally known. So we have folks at the California bases where we basically conduct those meetings with the service members and inform them of their benefits, what is available, and what they can do in order to connect to us. What we do to assist veterans with CNP claims filing is we provide direct assistance to service members at any VA regional office, and the Oakland regional office has two locations. One location here in Sacramento. We have a location here where service members can come and talk to us and talk to a service representative, as well as our main office in Oakland. And through national, local government, and community events. So we go to outreach events, and we are present there. We can take claims there as well. And we have representatives at some medical facilities, VA medical facilities, and we collaborate with other federal, state, tribal, and local governments and community organizations as well to provide information. Claims for VA benefits may also be filed online, again through the eBenefits portal, which is still fairly new, but that is a portal that is becoming more and more important, and because it provides claim status information, so the information that claimants normally call the 1-800 line to ask, what's going on with my claim in real time, and it reflects also additional evidence is needed to support the claim. So that portal is being built up right now, and it's changing about every 3 months. New capacity and capabilities are added to that. We also have a national call center, of course, and inquiry routing and information system that are also available for assistance with the claims process. We do cooperate with CDVA, VSOs, and the CVSOs on the claims process. And I would like to say that VA recognizes the importance of collaborating with veteran service organizations, the VSOs, and other stakeholders to improve service to veterans, and is committed to collecting and incorporating their input. National and local VA staff meet with officials from various state, federal and tribal and local governments, and community organizers to address issues and concerns and promote advocacy. At the Oakland Regional Office, we have a monthly meeting for the NSOs, and CDVA comes to the meeting as well, and we also make it open by phone to any of the CVSOs out in the counties to let them know this is what's going on with the regional office, and we provide information, that sort of thing. We also regularly engage with VSOs through formal biweekly meetings, so that is at the national level, meetings and a full-day forum, and those meetings allow the organizations an opportunity to directly address questions, express concerns, and share insights in relation to new benefits initiatives and any other subject matters that interest those organizations. We are currently coordinating with the VSOs to support assisted self-service through the eBenefits portal. VSOs are also playing an integral role in the development process of eBenefits features and enhancements. So this is not a program that is developing in and of itself without any input from the NSOs or the VSOs. We do need that input, so on a national level we gather that input. The biggest successes we've had in the area of CMP claims are that we are really right now working to transform our claims process by focusing on 3 important attributes, people, process, and technology. And our goal is to eliminate the backlog, no claim over 125 days, and improve our quality to 98% by 2015. So those are very ambitious goals, and VA is working very hard on those. We are, people that work for us, our most important asset, and we are measuring impact of multiple initiatives, and there are a lot of initiatives out there right now in the Indianapolis Integration Lab, or iLab. We are currently testing several initiatives. Concurrently, they are documenting efficiencies and reviewing quality in each of those steps. We also have a design team that is based in Atlanta, and it's revising and redesigning our claims processes to increase our claim production, as well as simplify the documents that we provide to the veteran. And, as you probably know, the documents that we send to the claimant are very often, claimants come very often to us and they ask us, what does this mean? They get lengthy letters, but for some of the claimants it's very difficult to understand, what are we trying? What are we asking them to do? So we're trying to simplify those processes, trying to simplify those letters. We have 2 new technologies that will allow us to become paperless, and that is a very big initiative, and more customer-oriented. One is called the Veterans Relationship Management, VRM. It's updating our call centers, so hopefully we'll make our call centers more efficient, and public contact functions. And then the Veterans Benefit Management Systems, VBMS, is a tool that we are using to become paperless. And again, the goal is to be paperless by about 2015. And we are an organization, as probably those of you who have dealt with us know, that we are right now still very much focused on paper. So that is definitely one of the goals that we are looking towards to achieving. We do understand it may not work for everyone to be paperless and to do the electronic claims processing for every veteran, but we hope at least a significant amount of claims in the future will be paperless, and the efficiencies we gain will help us in adjudicating claims more efficiently. The new evidence gathering tools such as the disability questionnaires, benefits questionnaires, sharpen our focus on medical examinations to ensure all information needed to rate or to make a decision on the claim is gathered the first time in the medical examination process. So those tools are now becoming more available to claimants themselves, that they can download, they can use them, take them to their private providers, for example, and get basically the equivalent of a VA examination. So we hope that also will speed up the claims process. And we have a process, it's called the Fully Developed Claims Program, and it puts veterans in the driver's seat for developing a claim that will be ready to rate when it's submitted. Along with features that preserve the earliest possible effective date for back payments upon approval. So we are processing fully developed claims right now, but in the future it will be possible for a claimant to indicate to us that he or she is ready to file a claim, and then to protect the effective date, and then they can gather the evidence and send it in to us, and then so we can backdate the effective date, so there will not be a loss in effective date. Together, new tools such as the calculators. We have calculators which help our raters, our decision makers, move through the decision-making process more on a rules-based and algorithm basis, faster. And online access improvements we hope will complement to feed into the VBMS as VA moves towards an electronic management system processing claims from start to finish, and We hope these systems will help us to end the backlog by 2015. That is definitely the goal that Secretary Shinseki has set for the organization. Our biggest challenges are reducing and eliminating the backlog right now. I mean, that is a major issue, and I'm sure as you talk to veterans across the country, across the nation, and here in California, that's what you hear. That's what I hear when I'm out in the field. And reaching the 98% rating accuracy. But also moving to a paperless environment in claims processing, just for the efficiencies that we hope to gain from that. A way ahead to keep meeting the mission of connecting veterans to benefits that they have earned is we really right now are very focused on having veterans register with e-benefits. For the levels 2 access that they need in the eBenefits website. The site is becoming basically right now a one-stop shop for benefit application, benefit information, and access to personal information such as official military personnel documents as well. In future, when a veteran selects a form to file a benefit, eBenefits will fill the form out with the information that they have that's already in the system, and it currently allows veterans to check on the status of claims, and there are self-service enhancements scheduled in the month ahead that will give veterans easier access to VA and control over their benefits. So that is, like I said, a program that is growing very, very fast, and it allows veterans to do a lot of things, such as print out letters showing that they are disabled veterans, print out their DD-214s, and other documents that they need. So it's a very comprehensive website, and we are very much would like veterans to register for that particular process. Our new claims transformation strategy to reach the 125-day or less goal is a veterans benefits management system. We integrate a business transformation strategy to address process and people with basically a paperless claims process. That is the goal. Paper is really what is very often hindering fast resolution on a claim. Combining a paperless claims processing system with improved business processes is the key to eliminating backlog and providing timely claims decisions, quality timely claims decisions to our claimants. We believe that VBMS will be a valuable tool in about 2012. So it's already being deployed at some ROs, right now still in the testing phase, but it's going to be moving out into each RO, so 2012 is the estimated date for that. And we believe that evolving to a paperless process is essential, but we are also aggressively pursuing our claims transformation initiatives right now in order to lay the technological and business transformation groundwork to streamline claims processing and eliminate the backlog. We are also making some immediate changes to improve efficiency of our business activities. So we have new calculators. Again, those will help our decision makers come to the right decision faster. They work in conjunction with the new DBQs, the new exam templates. So we are very proud of that. Those are being rolled out nearly on a daily basis. New ones are coming out. And we have a growing body of evidence gathering tools, basically the disability benefits questionnaires. They bring new efficiencies. The fully developed claims program speeds the decision process by empowering veterans and helping them submit claims that are ready for VA decision as soon as they are received. So VA is still responsible for getting federal records, but the claimant in this process is responsible for providing all the other information that may be out there for in order to support the claim. And just a quick word on potential legislation that is, pending at the national level that may be of interest to you. We work with Congress and we provide routine technical assistance, of course, to Congress, views and cost estimates on draft and on pending legislation that is out there. And on May 19th in 2011, we sent a draft Veterans Benefits Program Improvement Act of 2011 to both the House and Senate Veterans Affairs Committees. And the draft legislation that VA is proposing includes provisions that would enhance services and benefits for returning service members and their transition to veteran status, enhance efforts to address veteran homelessness and improve other veterans benefits programs, and increase accountability and efficiency in the disability claims process and help reduce the claims backlog as well as improve VA business practices to make the best use of taxpayer dollars for the benefit of veterans. So this is my, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Questions? Ms. Shimada, I see that look.
Your vice
I'm
chair.
sorry.
Well, let me defer to the vice chair. I'm
Mr.
happy.
Vice Chair.
Well, thank you so much for your presentation. Certainly as a state with the most number of veterans, very concerned about the backlog and the delays, and realize we have limited impact on the federal government here, and I am glad to hear that there's some bills working on it. But in terms of trying to get veteran their benefits, obviously just lots of moving parts. One part is what the veteran themselves has to put together in terms of submitting the claim. The other part is, of course, the decision-making process that has to take it to the VA, et cetera. What do you see are the biggest barriers or the biggest causes of delay in terms of helping the veteran be sure that they have all the information that's necessary to make the decision? And what percentage of the delay do you think is usually accounted for because it's at the end of the submission of the claim, where it's a gathering of information from outside the VA, versus how much is it because it's the VA taking its time doing whatever it needs to do to make a decision?
Well, I think it's a combination of both. I mean,
it is a combination of both. I'm saying that, but there's a percentage of time whenever someone has to make a decision about a claim, there's the percentage of time that the delay is occurring because the person who's submitting the claim forgot something, didn't have all the information. You go back and say, you need to get this now. Mm-hmm. You have to prove that, whatever else. And then there's now I have the claim and I'm sitting on it because of whatever else are my decision makers. And you've certainly made reference to both, but I'm really trying to figure out what we can try to do to help facilitate as much as possible. And I know we have a lot of people working out in the community, CVSOs, other organizations trying to help out, but trying to figure out what can we do to shorten that period of time, and also exactly how much shorter would it really make is really most of the delay, because now that they got it, the VA, and all the things that you're talking about, trying to move to electronic, but also what we can try to do to shorten to help the vets get all the pieces they need. So now it's an issue of trying to get the VA to act faster.
Yeah, it's a difficult question, and I can't really give you any precise numbers. I just work basically from what I see at my regional office. By far the largest part of the process is the evidence gathering process. And yes, we see very often that, we start the process, and then in the middle somewhere of the process, either new issues are raised by the claimant, by the way, I forgot, or, we are, in the middle of the process, the claimant identifies additional information. So my answer to that would be basically the fully developed claims process.
So you're saying that it's actually at the gathering of information by the claimant that's the main.
It's the largest part of the process. When you look at numerically, that's where the claim spends the most of its time right now.
And what tends to be the most frequent, missing piece of information that tends to come up? Is it, for example, you mentioned health exam? Is it because it's an incomplete exam that they were not able to get all the information, or?
No, I think the exams are a smaller part, actually. Claims are like people. Even so, you have two veterans filing a claim for hearing loss. Each claim potentially can go very different ways depending on what it's based on. So it's very difficult really to pin down and say, because of this particular instance or this particular issue on all of the claims, this is what the delay is caused. Now, the delay is also caused, of course, by issues such as we have a backlog. So even if we have all the evidence, in some cases there are delays in just getting to the point of making the decision, or in following through, knowing, that we are sending a letter to the claimant saying, this is what you need to provide us. The claimant provides it to us, but then, it takes time for us to again look at this claim, and we don't look at it fast enough. We don't look at it the next day that we can legally look at it. It waits.
Sure.
So it's a combination of both. The backlog is definitely of a concern, and that is driving a lot of the delays right now.
Well, I'm a physician, but I also have a background in quality improvement. So what happens is when we look at processes, so for example, I've been very active in getting kids health insurance coverage. Well, every child and every family has their own particular circumstance. We also collect data on exactly what is it that tends to hold up their claim for request for healthcare coverage and what factors. And I guess what I was looking for is trying to, if you're looking at something from a quality improvement model, right, and how do you speed things up, you look at, well, where are the sticking points, where are the places that things tend to get caught up in. Maybe it's because the physical exams tend to be missing a certain type of thing, or maybe there's a particular type of information that not everybody, but that's where it's where the choke points are in the process to trying to get people the claims, and of course trying to be sure they get fully all the benefits that they're supposed to get. And so you may not necessarily have the information, but it'd be very helpful if hopefully that information is available somewhere. It may not be, but be helpful, at least for me, and I think perhaps for the committee, in terms of trying to think about where, looking at the whole process system, where are the choke points in trying to get veterans their benefits, and what can we try to do as a state to try to alleviate some of those and help be sure that we get our vets all the benefits they need in a very timely manner. And I know that you're working, you certainly in your capacity and your presentation indicating that you're trying to work on that, but we'd like to be good partners in that, and it's helpful to have that kind of data to be able to look at where do we direct our efforts. Okay. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Ms. Willeman. I did want to again take a little personal privilege to say that Ms. Willeman was my 2011 Veteran of the Year. So I'm very pleased to see her here also in this capacity. Certainly her presentation chock full of information, and that's the reason why she was my Veteran of the Year this year.
In the Air Force, right?
So I think, the description about going to the 125-day as a goal to keep all claims through that process, following along on what Dr. Pan talked about, if there are certain points at which we can gather information or even use other systems, and I guess that is my question. Do we rely upon other systems for information that sometimes has already been gathered, and there's the element of what we call presumptive eligibility? Or does it always have to be just separate federal processing? And the reason I say that is I think at the county level there's aid paid pending, which is the aid is paid pending federal authorization, and then the counties get backfilled from the point that the veteran may have come into a county office. Is that sort of presumptive eligibility or aid paid pending kind of process still available? Or do you know what I'm talking about too, right? When a veteran may have come into a county office seeking assistance, there are certain, and I know there are county folks here and VSO folks here that might also have an answer to that question. But what the point I'm driving towards is that instead of looking at eligibility as sort of a siloed process, there are many other elements sometimes to an individual who may have already answered the same questions, provided the same records. Certain things have not changed, and thereby, if we were able to work together across different systems, that we might be able to save a day a week, save another test because that test has already been taken in another system. Has there been any kind of inkling of discussions like that?
Not specifically regarded to that particular instance. Again, when on the federal side, when we make a disability determination or a claims determination, we are bound by law to get certain evidence, and very often that is federal evidence, as far as evidence related to a veteran's service. And, but once a claimant has already established that with us, we don't recollect it again when the person comes in, maybe a few years later, filing another claim either on the same issue for an increased evaluation, disability evaluation, or for something else. Then our focus shifts towards, another piece of evidence that we need. So we don't regather evidence, if we don't need it. As far as determinations, I think what you're alluding to may be something that there has been some talk on, I believe, on a national level, and I'm not very cognizant of that. But basically providing benefits and then later on adjudicating the claim. I think there has been some talk at the national level. There have been some studies, some proposals out there, legislative proposals. But I could not speak to you at this particular point where those are.
It would require a federal fix for the VA to accept state eligibility as presumptive for a federal benefits claim. But it's a thought. As we know, all public services are clamoring for additional resources that don't seem to be forthcoming. And so maybe we can figure out some creative ways. Thank you for all your service, and we do work together on a lot of veterans service events in and around the district and the state. And so I want to thank you especially for all of your extra efforts.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Atkins.
Thank you. And I know this presentation has been pretty much focused on the process of claims and management and response, but you mentioned special populations of people, women, homeless. Has there been any, and I know many of the VA outreach workers are doing work in communities, but are you having discussions about how to do more outreach, how to find these folks? I was just in San Diego at our stand down, and this year in particular, I've been every year. This year in particular, it struck me how many young people are already homeless. Mm-hmm. And there was a whole discussion about it locally for us related to stand down. And I just am wondering what discussions are going on about that fact. Is that true nationwide? And as we're seeing people come back and end up homeless much sooner than was true for our Vietnam vets, how is the VA approaching that? What discussions are you having?
Okay, please remember I can speak for the Oakland Regional Office and to some extent also maybe for some of the big initiatives on a federal level, but as far as what other regional offices may be doing, as well as some of the other legislative parts that are dealing with VHA, the Veteran Health Administration, those I really cannot give you a lot of information. But yes, the Secretary has clearly declared that one of his major goals and probably his most important goal, aside from eliminating the backlog, is to eliminate homelessness amongst veterans by 2015. That is a department goal. So resources are come to bear on that. The Oakland Regional Office, we have a homeless veteran outreach coordinator who works with homeless veterans. He's out there trying to get the claims, trying to find the folks. But at the same time, we also try to leverage, that one person and work with VHA specifically because the outreach staffs are larger, have them funnel us claims from veterans, get those claims adjudicated faster so we can start, monetary benefits.
VHA?
VHA is Veterans Health Administration. Oh. So these are the medical centers, the CBOCs, the community out-based clinics. Their staff is larger. So, we are doing a lot of outreach on the homeless front locally here. And as well, I know there are a lot of federal initiatives on there. I think one of them is on HUD-VASH with housing vouchers. There's a lot of money, I believe, flowing in that direction. Specifically, I can't speak to that. As I said, my focus is much more on the disability claims process and on the claims of homeless veterans that we are processing that we give priority to. And every other office as well. But the department's goal is to eliminate homelessness by 2015. And yes, I do agree. The numbers that I have seen is our current veterans are reaching the stage of homelessness faster than any other generation before them. And I'm sure this is troubling to me, but I'm sure it is very troubling to the Secretary as well, to all of us. So.
Well, I want to thank you. I have a couple of questions real quick and a comment. And this is probably, we're just talking about this. This is the whole policy of the VA and maybe a national level. Because I had experience with the Loma Linda VA. And a number of years ago, I have an ongoing problem. And I talked to Ted Pontillo, who many of you know, and I think he's like the expert on filling out claims. And when I've been diagnosed twice with leukemia, and of course the comment that my original oncologist was the correlation with Agent Orange. And I got to be honest with you, I'm still not convinced it's Agent Orange. My oncologist thinks it's related to benzene associated with napalm, and I see a lot of heads in the audience nodding because they probably have, read some of the literature. Anyway, make a long story short, Ted said, when one of the later interpretations came out again, the second time I had leukemia, he said, you ought to put in a claim for hairy cell leukemia. And I said, Ted, you know, I get insurance from this. You know, he said, you got to do it, because how about the other individuals that have that? So I said, okay, I'll do it. Help me with the forms, because the forms are cumbersome. The forms are difficult. And this is part of what I'm saying, is that for a lot of people that go in there, they give up on these forms after a while. They say, you know, they walk out on it, and it's even tougher for somebody that's homeless or has some other problem. So anyway, I said, yeah, I'll do it. So I went down, I filled out the forms, and had to send the documents from the first oncologist and hematologist and the second and everything like that. Sent them to it, and as far as I know, they got them. And maybe I should have checked up. And so I called up, and I said, is this, I don't know, after years of claim going forward? And they said, yeah. And they said, you got to come down for an examination. So I came down, you know, they checked my heart, fine, blah, blah, blah. I was still alive. And then they called 6 months later and said, you got to come back again for a hearing examination. And I said, wait a minute, hearing? So I went down there, you know, I was in the military. Okay, I'll obey the orders, and I'll go down there. They had the wrong Social Security number. And because after a while, I said, why am I here for a hearing exam? I know I'm old and feeble and everything else, and my colleagues probably think I can't. But anyway, they had the wrong Social Security number. So I said, is the claim being processed? Make a long story short, got a thing back. It says your claim has been, it was not approved. And so I called up and asked why, and they said, we didn't have enough documentation. And they said, you have a year to appeal the decision, and I guess if you don't. And so I was a little frustrated, but then and part of the reason we're having this hearing is, and it's like being back in the military, because it's a huge organization. And sometimes it's very, very difficult to go through by the numbers. And you talk about a paperless sort. That's great if a lot of people understand the email, but a lot of times they just get fed up with going through this, the waiting, and they quit. And we have, I think, I'm in a much better situation, but I'm a retared colonel and everything like that. But how about that PFC or that Lance Corporal or that homeless person? They're never they don't understand the process. You guys, I'm sure, do a great job, but there's at other locales, I just think that a lot of the veterans think it's tough to get this done. And after a while, they kind of give up because, you go down there, you get in a line and you go through. And any way that we can make it, and I applaud your efforts to reach out and because it's going to be tough. Getting DD-214s is an act of God. The new change with the motor vehicle form is great, and we're going to show that later on. But any way we can cut through that, and I tell you, I had the same thing when I was in the military, in the service. The bureaucracy is winning sometimes on this, and we have people as they get older, or they're just, it's very, very complicated to them. And these are the ones I think we've got to make it simpler. Think in terms of a 6th grade education. I know everything is paperless, but a lot of people don't have a computer. They can't spell the internet, and I'm one of them. I was born in Jurassic Park, so I have problems with all this. But I empathize with those people, so I would hope that you could perhaps take that back in terms of, almost have some dry runs of people that go through this process to see how it works, to evaluate, as Dr. Pan and the other members were concerned about. At least that's my conveyance. But you're the messenger. I want to thank you so much for coming up here. And this is certainly not a critique of you. I think you're doing a great job, and I want to thank you very much for your time in the military, and congratulations for being Veteran of the Year. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, our next speaker, we're going to take a look at state and local government programs. And we have Dr. Do we have the full panel at once, or you just? All right, we're going to bring up the whole panel if we could. We got Dr. Trevor Albertson. We got Miss Barbara Rooney. Dr. Albertson is the Deputy Secretary for Veteran Services. Ms. Rooney, Barbara Rooney, Assistant Director, Legislation, California Department of Motor Vehicles. And she's going to talk about the new form, which I am really, really excited about, so I don't want to steal your thunder. Dennis Petrie, Deputy Director, Workforce Services, California Employment Development Center. And we've gone through different hearings, and I appreciate you being here again. Mr. Tom Splitgerber, County Veteran Service Officer in San Diego. So we have a panel, and we're going to start with Dr. Albertson.
Good morning, Colonel. I'm Dr. Trevor Albertson. I am the Deputy Secretary of Veteran Services at the California Department of Veterans Affairs.
Now, are you an Air Force pilot, or is that what I heard?
I am an Air Force intelligence officer. I'm a reservist now. I served at the behest of General North, the commander of Pacific Air Forces, and I handled political military intelligence there for the Pacific region.
I was just wondering why the hearing is being taken over by the Air Force, so just wanted to keep this...
to the chair, sir, it has a lot to do with quality of service.
Oh, okay. Strike two. Okay. Moving on. Thank you for being
Thank you, Colonel. Good morning. To the member through the chair, good show. That's I'm going to talk a little bit today about CalVet, California Department of Veterans Affairs, and what we're doing to increase compensation and pension subscription here in the state of California. As we know, we fall well below the, well, not well below, but below the national average. And for the state with the most veterans and an active county veteran services officer organization, as well as our veteran service organization partners in the state, there's a lot we can do to change that. Within the department, it is our mission to serve veterans, California's veterans and their families. We do have a goal that we have established in the division, provide high-quality advocacy and services for all California veterans, and increase the percentage of veterans in California who receive United States Department of Veterans Affairs compensation and pension benefits to at least the national average by 2014, though it is a goal of mine to far exceed the national average. Within the Division of Veterans Services, which I lead, we provide a spectrum of services, and really those start with the state-mandated benefits, college tuition fee waiver, as well as the state cemeteries, the one at Igo, as well as Yountville. We provide assistance in accessing federal benefits, namely compensation and pension. We provide coordination and outreach with our partners in the state, private sector, public sector. And then lastly, as I see it, we are really the primary advocate for veterans within state government and within the state here in California. A particular note today, obviously, we're talking about assistance in accessing federal benefits. This is something that is near and dear to your hearts as well as mine. Compensation and pension, mostly the application for compensation and pension initially is provided support through our county veteran services officers, as well as our partners in the veteran services organizations. More directly, CalVet provides assistance in appeals representation through our 3 district offices, Oakland, Los Angeles, and San Diego, and they do a very active and good job in supporting that. But there are a number of problems we face, and I'm going to go through those. Currently, we obviously lag behind the national average, and there's several factors that contribute to this, and I've broken them out really into larger groups: programmatic, structural, and cultural, and let me discuss each of those. The first programmatic issue is a department where it's nobody's secret that we're somewhat underfunded for the job we've been asked to do. I just don't have the funds to do it all. The other problem is, as a result of underfunding, we're understaffed. I have to rely on my county veteran service officer partners as well as my veteran service organization partners to get these claims started. There's structural issues as well. It can be summed up as disparate efforts by disparate agencies, which a lot of that goes back to the fact that we don't have at this point, though we are working on this and are getting ready to roll out a centralized training program so that everybody's on the same standard, which anybody from the Air Force can appreciate that. Everybody operates by the same rule book. There's also varying levels of support by county board of supervisors for their county veteran services organizations, county veteran services officers. Some counties, such as San Diego, get great support. There are other counties where the county veteran services officer is a part-time position and often is a secondary position for that individual. And then lastly, there are cultural issues we face as a state. Past versus current generation, in many ways, the past generations were far more vocal than the current generation in accessing their benefits. In many ways, I think the current generation of veterans returning home are much more akin to the World War I generation. They're returning to a not-so-hot economy. They're returning to a state that has grown beyond the military in some ways. There's also the issue of economic prosperity overall in the state. Obviously, returning veterans are running into issues with employment, and by the fact that they're not employed, many becoming homeless, they simply aren't reintegrating into the realities that you can access benefits. There is help for you. They're falling through the cracks altogether. And there's also the issue of expense associated with living in the state of California. And I think this, more than anything, plays to our lower than national average standing. Veterans who would be living on a pension would not want to relocate to this state for the simple fact that they can't afford to live here. The amount that a pension would provide makes it difficult to live in Oklahoma, let alone California. And then those veterans who end up on pension and compensation is perhaps their primary means of money, can't maintain their lifestyle here and are forced to go elsewhere. So I think that, more than anything, I think, is really what drives, in part, our below the national average figure. So how do we improve this? And we have some ideas. The first is we've been collaborating and will continue to collaborate with our partner agencies, the County Veteran Services officers, the community colleges, the California State Universities, University of California System, as well as our partners at EDD, who have also been a fantastic partner. As of late, I'd also like to point out that the community colleges are working with us to streamline reintegration of veterans straight into community college, and we'll be rolling that out in coming weeks and months. But of particular note there is that we want to get veterans reintegrated, and there are agencies that are helping us with that. Once we get reintegrated into one system, we can reintegrate them into the compensation and pension application process. We've collaborated with non-governmental organizations, and by that I mean veteran services organizations and faith-based organizations primarily. We can work towards growth of personnel within the division, within county veteran services offices, and within the department as a whole. We simply need more folks. We can expand outreach. One of the things we are trying to do right now is expand outreach with the private sector. There are a number of very successful organizations out there that have at their helm veterans who are very willing to help, and I'm finding myself more and more on the road working with them and using their good offices to support veterans. There's also MyCalVet, the new website and online tool that we're going to be rolling out that will aid in getting veterans straight into the application process by identifying who they are, where they are, and hooking them up with the VA. We need to establish stronger relationship with veterans treatment courts. As veteran treatment courts find individuals who are in need of help, they can also help work them into the application process for compensation and pension. Working with the VA, the Veterans Administration on the federal level, for reentry of incarcerated veterans, either increasing their current 10% level of payment due to incarceration or getting the process started so that at least are reintegrating into something upon their release from incarceration. And then a couple others. One is, I think, that we should look at least at the departmental level, establishing an advisory committee for the Secretary and myself of successful business, academic, medical, legal, and community leaders to advise us on how to get compensation and pension rates up. We don't have all the answers, nor do I or the Secretary suppose that we do. We want to hear what others have to say, and I look forward to that. And then lastly, it's what I call low-hanging fruit. There's a few things I think we could do quickly to change the picture. One of which is an idea of just putting up signs on the major interstate crossings into the state of California that says, "Veterans, welcome home. You have benefits, access them, and provide the MyCalVet website." Another one is providing legislators an opportunity to provide links to compensation and pension CalVet on their websites, as well as including reintegration forms and legislative mailers that are sent out by federal and state legislators. I think together with these things, the advice of this committee, working with the governor's office and the secretary, I think there's a lot we can do to increase compensation and pension. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions, Dr. Pan?
I guess sort of the same question I asked our previous presenter, actually, except at the state level. I mean, is there way we can collect either data or work, I guess probably some of it's with the feds, but really looking at where the opportunities are, where the choke points are in terms of trying to get the benefits to the vets where people are dropping off, and then trying to figure out what we can do as a community response. There's certain things we could try to do as a state. Obviously, we're limited in our resources with the budgets and so forth, but there's talking about, what kinds of outreach we can do. For example, the reason I kept bringing up, exams and disability is something we should do with the, physician and other health professional community, that to educate them, to have them know how to fill out forms so that you don't end up having missing information that's needed to get a claim moving, so it doesn't get stuck up for that, or other types of things. So, but if you can identify where the choke points are, then we know where we can focus our efforts in trying to move things along. I don't know if that's something the department has identified or is going to identify, so where we can try to rally people around to try to hopefully make the biggest impact. Thank you.
To the Assembly member through the chair, there is one choke point right now, a couple actually, but we are working through them. The first is data. In fact, I think that is the primary one, knowing who our veterans are and where they are. There's a set of data called RONA data that are provided to the National Guard as a way of recruiting recent military returnees in a National Guard service. That hasn't been provided to us for some months now. I am meeting with Major General Baldwin on the 24th to discuss that, and I suspect that, as he has been in the past, he will be very, very helpful in providing us that data in the future. Sir?
No, I just wanted to comment on that and the different veterans organizations that I've seen them driving people to the veterans' homes, and it's unbelievable the amount of volunteer time that so many of our former veterans that are affiliated with, and the organizations are obviously represented in this room, and I'm not saying that because they're here, but truly they do so much that's one of our biggest assets. I think that I know you guys have used them in the past, but God, they always seem like they're always there, and maybe they don't get as much notoriety, but I know they've helped me in the past in the community. The base that I was at, which was 29 Palms, the San Diego area, they get involved, and they talk to the vets, and they're not afraid to let you know when there's a complaint. I mean, which is great, because sometimes I think you get a little bit away from the actual problem sometimes. So I encourage you to have those you have the stand downs and the where you bring all your services down. I know in San Diego and different areas we're going to try and do one in the Inland Empire. So anyway, more questions. Oh, by the way, before I move on, I want to welcome Assembly Member Williams, and I also want to welcome Assembly Member Block. I know we were on the other committee. Obviously, they didn't miss me. They might miss you. But any more questions? Yes, Doctor.
If you've completed the answer to your question, you just mentioned the obviously identifying who the vets are here. But
Right.
Other choke points?
Yeah, to the member through the chair, first I just want to second that and say absolutely. Our Veteran Services organizations, I know one of them has the motto of we'll do anything for this country, and they regularly do, every single one of them. And this organization and the Veterans of California couldn't make it without every single one of them out there. To respond to the question, in addition to the RONA data, we also would get data and are working with the folks from Medi-Cal cost avoidance right now to access a huge amount of data in terms of who the veterans are and where they are. We're getting ready to make an announcement on a shift in that program that will increase funding, and in doing so also provide us a massive amount of data that we currently don't have. So those are the two. I think really knowing who and where the veterans are is the choke point.
Well, I want to thank you very much.
Sir.
And we'll go on to our next speaker. And I know we have a visual up here, and we might. I need the big E.
I've actually brought some for you, so
Thank you so much, and really, really happy to hear about this. So if we could share that.
This is the non-original driver license identification card application as well as the commercial.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Well, good morning, Mr. Chair and members. My name is Barbara Rooney, and I am the Ledge Director at the Department of Motor Vehicles. And I'd first like to thank you for your interest in DMV's efforts and collaboration with CDVA to improve access to benefits for veterans. We recognize that we're just a sliver on your agenda today, so we certainly appreciate the opportunity to share with you how CDVA and DMV have been collaborating toward this very important goal. As the face of state government, and unlike most other state agencies, we have the opportunity to provide service to just about all Californians. So it's because of that interaction, partnering with DMV to allow veterans to identify themselves as being interested in receiving information relative to benefits makes perfect sense. Our efforts actually began in June of 2010 with both departments entering into an MOU to establish a process that would allow veterans to self-identify themselves as veterans through our driver license and identification card process. Under this Veteran Outreach Data Collection Project, we've actually established a new source of veteran contact information for purposes of outreach to veterans and their families. It's pretty straightforward. I'm hoping that even though I've provided you with the form itself, you still may need to use your glasses because, as you can tell, there's quite a bit of information.
I have two pair.
Do you? Oh, good. There's quite a bit of information on the form. But again, the process is very straightforward. We've modified the driver license and identification card application process to allow applicants to self-identify themselves and permit the release of their contact information to CDVA. Under our agreement with CDVA, changes to the forms in our computer systems were to be implemented at the earliest opportunity and in the most cost-effective manner with a target implementation date of July 1st, 2011. Now, statute actually specifies what is collected on the driver license and identification card application. So statutory changes were needed to accomplish this. And with the passage, it was a budget trailer bill, but it was the passage of AB 105 in March of this year, the DMV was able to continue our efforts moving forward to realize the July 1st, 2011 target date. So essentially, the application form, which you all have and is displayed here in the room, has been modified to include a veteran question you'll see on the face of the form, as well as a veteran statement on the back of the form. Thank you for pointing that out. I don't know if do you have the back of the form as well? Okay. The back of the form provides some additional information. You will see there's various certifications, one of which is the information related to veterans' benefits. So applicants merely check the box on the form. Now, our computer programming is not yet complete to automate that identifier, so we've developed a manual procedure that is in place right now for those that do indicate that they're interested in receiving benefits. And that is, we provide them with this form. It's a Veterans Benefit Information Request form, and I'm happy to provide those to you as well. On the back side of the form, you'll see that it is at no cost mailed back to the Department of Motor Vehicles, where we then forward that onto CDVA. So an individual can either take care of that at time of transaction, or they can, if they're in a rush, do that at their leisure. This month, we expect to have completed our renewal by internet programming that does allow a veteran to check the box as part of his or her renewal application that's submitted online with the department. The programming collecting the identifier for applicants who do renew by mail is still underway, but that same population is eligible to go online and to renew their driver license online, where they can make that indicator via the online process. And of course, they're always able to go into a local field office and take care of the transaction that way as well. Now, as far as that's the data collection portion. As far as sharing the information collected with CDVA, and per our MOU, an additional agreement has been developed between the two departments that does outline the privacy and the security requirements for the information. And the agreement essentially provides how the information is to be used and the frequency of transmission of that information. And last, I just wanted to provide just to kind of dovetail on what was said earlier with regard to promoting the information and getting the word out there to veterans. Aside from what I've just shared with you, we have created posters, and I have a just a paper form of it for you here today. But we have these posters that we have created, and we have placed them in all of our field offices. And as many of you know, we have 168 field offices throughout the state. In addition to that, we've created a Fast Facts pamphlet, which I have for you here, if you'd like to share that as well. Providing information, and it's titled, Are You a Veteran? Have you served in the U.S. Armed Forces? And it provides quite a bit of information. This same information is also available on our website. So we're real happy to have that out and available in our offices and on the internet. And additionally, we've decided that this card is of great value, and it's something that we want to continue beyond when the programming is completed. It does make sense to certainly make that available to our veterans beyond that date.
Well, I want to thank you very much. I want to compliment the department for working with us on this. I think it's absolutely outstanding that this is a vehicle to get in touch with veterans and perhaps get their benefits. And so, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A quick question for you from the DMV. I'm very happy to see this, of course, but I did want to ask this question because it came specifically out of a constituent case in our office when I first came here in 2008, 2009. We had a disabled veteran who was not aware that he would qualify for I think, a waiver of his vehicle license fee. As well as other benefits that would inure to him because of his disabled veteran status. We did engage in a several-month battle with, not you, but with the DMV, and we were successful in not only getting his veteran status established, but I think he got something like a $2,000 to $3,000 refund because this went back several years. Okay. And we had actually had a bill in to require DMV to have that identifying information on the new form, asking if you were a veteran, are you a veteran, and if you have disability status, please check this box. It appears that didn't make it. We agreed to withdraw our legislation on the agreement that it was administrative and that the forms were being revised. Do you know anything? This is the first, obviously we have not been monitoring, but was the first I've seen of the new form, and obviously they've already been printed. Do you recall anything about, I understand the very important need to gather this kind of information to be sent to CDVA, but I'm quite disappointed actually to see that the very issue that we were trying to address, which was to ensure that people who are already veterans that reached a certain percentage of disability, automatically get, I believe, free driver's license as well as a waiver of the vehicle license fee. And this is, again, something that many veterans, and certainly something that we didn't know until we took this constituent case on. So I don't mean to put you on the spot, but maybe, and I've just asked my staff to follow up as well.
Yeah, no, I would appreciate that. I've been in the position a little over a year, so I'm not aware of the constituent case that you make reference to, right. Nor the legislation that,
okay.
But I can certainly look into that for you, and we can talk further about what some of those barriers were. Just in hearing you, it seems to me that most of the benefits and the information related to what we can provide the disabled veteran fall on our vehicle registration side of the house, right. And it is still very much divided, if you will.
Right.
What we're talking about here today is the driver license identification card process. So there could have been something related to that, but I'm certainly happy to look into that and reach out to your office, and we can continue the dialogue.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And thank you again. Mr. Petrie.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, esteemed members of this committee. Thank you very much for this welcome opportunity to discuss the Employment Development Department's partnership and collaboration with federal, state, and local entities as it pertains to delivering quality and necessary services in support of California's veterans. My name is Dennis Petrie, and I'm the Deputy Director of the Employment Development Department for the Workforce Services Branch. It's a pleasure to appear before all of you once again. In this position, I have oversight and administrative responsibilities for the implementation of several U.S. Department of Labor employment and training programs and services. Among those programs are the Jobs for Veterans State Grants, which supports the DVOP, LVRs, and TAP program administered throughout the state. We provide funding grants to a variety...
DVAC?
Pardon me?
I'm sorry, what was that?
The DVOP, LVR, and TAP
What's
program.
DVAC acronyms? Spell them out.
Oh, okay. The DVOP is the Disabled Veterans Opportunity Program.
Thank you.
And the LVERs, that stands for Local Veteran Employment Representatives. And the TAP program, which was referenced by our first speaker, is the Transitional Assistance Program, where we have staff dispatched to military bases and installations throughout California and providing that transitional assistance information.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I just always like to spell out the acronyms so I understand them, the committee understands them, and most important, that the veterans and the groups that are here understand them.
Absolutely, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
In addition, we provide funding grants to a variety of veteran service organizations across the state of California, and that's through a competitive bid process. These are WIA, Workforce Investment Act, discretionary dollars, and these are, as I indicated, awarded through a competitive bid process, and the annual allocation has averaged roughly $6 million per year. A number of the California Association for Veteran Service Agency members are grantees through that competitive process. They deliver a wide range of holistic services to veterans in the local community. We have the Employment Services Program. That is available to all job seekers, and there is a priority of service emphasis on veterans, otherwise known as a labor exchange program. Bringing together veterans who are seeking jobs with employers that are seeking employees, and they spend, a lot of our staff spend a lot of time developing specific jobs and relationships with employers that have a positive predisposition towards hiring veterans. Our EDD Job Services staff are co-located with Workforce Investment Act and other local partners in the one-stop career centers across California. We have approximately 200 one-stop career centers. The Employment Development Department is very much like the Department of Motor Vehicles from the standpoint of one of the only state agencies that actually deliver services locally and have a local presence. Of course, EDD administers the Unemployment Insurance Program, the California Training Benefits Program, the Trade Act Assistance Training Program, disability insurance, paid family leave. We provide labor market information. We process H-1B and H-2A labor certifications, and we solicit and apply for national emergency grants, and we administer various statewide and special projects. EDD's efforts on behalf of veterans, we have a specific focus on veterans and with specific emphasis on integrating services. Operation Welcome Home, which we'll talk about a little bit, is a good example of a collaborative partnership among and across a number of state agencies as well as local partners. The EDD is partner and collaborative efforts among various federal, state, and local governmental entities. We partner and work with NGOs, non-governmental organizations, community-based organizations, philanthropic foundations, workforce intermediaries, and of course, employers and employer organizations. EDD has a strong commitment and has been leading statewide on the concepts of integrated services delivery. I do always emphasize, though, that integrated services delivery is where you take a collection of programs that have their own independent legislative mandates, whether at the state level or the federal level, various funding streams, and do your best effort at bringing those services and programs together and marshal them around the needs of the specific veteran or job seeker. EDD is in collaborative partnerships with the United States Department of Labor Veteran Employment and Training Services. We partner with the Federal Veterans Administration. I talked about the integrated services delivery pilot that we're leading with 14 other local workforce investment areas. Proud to say Riverside, San Bernardino County, the San Diego Workforce Partnership, SETA, Sacramento Employment and Training Administration, LA City, Long Beach are among the workforce investment areas in the state that are piloting this very innovative model of service delivery with us. I was very interested in the presentation by your first panelist because the Employment Development Department, in concert with the Department of Rehabilitation, has been moving forward on the development of a Veterans Benefit Calculator and Navigator, very similar to what was presented this morning, and so I'm looking forward to following up to see how we can link these two projects. As the Deputy Secretary indicated, all of us are responding to the challenge of this economy and the havoc that it has wreaked upon our local, state, and federal budgets and revenues. We all have to look for ways to do more with less, and I guess that means the natural movement towards automated systems and the use of the Internet where those projects and tools make sense. We're looking at this Veterans Benefit Calculator and Navigator, an automated web-based tool that will provide self-service opportunities and allow usage and leverage across a broad spectrum of service providers. I want to talk a bit about Operation Welcome Home, which we embarked upon, a number of agencies, state agencies and local agencies, during state fiscal year 2009-2010. We were able to create the Operation Welcome Home program as a result of the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act funds. I do want to emphasize that those were one-time funds. As far as the EDD's receipt of ARA dollars, that's over, done, gone. Those dollars have been spent. However, we have found several promising and best practices through that initiative that it is our commitment and the commitment of the California Department of Veterans Affairs, our local partners, as well as the state agencies that participated with us, as long as they still are around, if they are around, the Department of Mental Health, the Department of Alcohol and Drug Programs. We want to sustain those elements, but we recognize, as was indicated, the resources, the fiscal resources are not there, so figuring out how to do more with less and zeroing in on those elements that produce the greatest result. We are very proud of our partnerships with the California Veteran Service Organizations. We look forward to opportunities where these tools, these automation tools, can serve both our purposes. Operation Welcome Home created an opportunity to capture data with the use of the Veterans Reintegration Project, a piece that the Deputy Secretary talked about. The key element is the ability to find our veterans when they return home and communicate with them very quickly. We hope that that database system will be sustained and enhanced, and we are looking for opportunities to find linkages between that system and our own so that other partners can participate as well on the movement and delivery of services to our veterans. If there is a challenge out there, I think one of the challenges that the linchpin, as far as I'm concerned, the linchpin to the success of the Operation Welcome Home program has been the introduction and utilization of the Veterans Reintegration Form through the delivery of the transitional assistance programs. If there is a risk out there, the risk out there is that the Department of Labor, Veteran, and Employment Training Services has been talking about the centralization of that program, whereby today we have California staff and employees delivering that program and sharing that information among various state agencies. If the program is to be centralized, we are not sure whether or not they will maintain the utilization and distribution of the veteran integration form. Without that form, we can't create the database that allows us to find and reach these veterans through email contact, telephone contact, inviting them into our offices, availing themselves of the services. And so if there is an area whereby we certainly would appreciate the assistance and help of this esteemed body and your leadership, Mr. Chair, it's in having conversations with our federal colleagues to adopt the reintegration form if there is a centralized federal delivery system, to emphasize and cajole, to the best of our abilities, the adoption of this form. Thank you very much, and it is a pleasure to be here again, and I'd be happy to respond to any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. And hopefully we can one day all be on the same sheet of music instead of operating in our own silos that bureaucracies have a tendency to do, but we do have to work together, particularly in these challenging times. Any questions, or we'll go on to our next speaker? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. You know, I was at the Aerospace Select Committee meeting yesterday, and we heard from private industry about jobs in California, and in particular, Northrop Grumman talked about their program in trying to hire veterans. Are you, through either the Workforce Investment, the WIBS, or EDD, you're very much aware of all of those efforts? It seems like there's so much going on in lots of directions, and everybody wants to be helpful to veterans. But it seems really hard to see how all of it comes together. And I just happened to be sitting at an aerospace technology hearing, and I perked up when I heard them talk about veterans. Are you aware, Mr. Petrie, and how does all that sort of come together since you're the EDD?
Generally, the efforts come together through the labor exchange process. Many of you in this room probably understand the evolution of the whole labor exchange from the days of reading the newspaper for jobs or going to an office and seeing 3x5 cards saying this employer's looking for this. But you know, with the advent of the internet, now you have CareerBuilder, Monster.com. At one particular point, CalJobs, which is the labor exchange, the state-sponsored labor exchange system in California, was like the only gig in town, so to speak, to have electronic job boards. So the effort today, and we are leading efforts, our Labor Market Information Division is leading efforts with the Conference Board, with employer organizations, to maximize the potential of linkages between multiple labor exchange systems so that all of the employers and organizations that are looking for veterans as applicants to the positions that they have, that we can begin to get this stuff in a much more comprehensive listing so that our LVERs, local veteran employment representatives, and our job services staff and the local Workforce Investment Act staff in one-stops have more real-time access and understanding of the jobs when they become available. The systems that EDD employs has what's called Veterans Priority of Service. And what that does is when those jobs become available, and we know that these are any jobs that become available, 24-hour holds before those jobs get posted for the whole world to see. There's a 24-hour hold on those so that only our veteran service representatives know of those particular openings, and so we can try to quickly create the pipeline of prospective applicants into those particular positions.
Well, now you made me think of another question. So I appreciate
Then I'll
that.
stop talking.
No. This is really important. I appreciate it. So 24 hours doesn't seem like a long hold. Is that regulated through legislation, or is it a rule, or who says 24 hours?
I think at this particular point, I'd have to go back and research that, Assemblymember Atkins, to find out whether it's statute or whether it's an internal policy, because if it's an internal policy, it's certainly something that is easier to change.
Okay. And with that, a simple question, I think, except a woman in San Diego, veteran, got into a long discussion with me about whether California has veterans preference in hiring, and I don't exactly know the parameters of that. Simply, can you tell me we do, we don't, and what are the...
In state government, the state government has veteran preferences, and
so...
so...
a hiring freeze, so...
Correct. And we're looking forward to the day that that is lifted. And so through the state's program, of course, it's a merit-based system and everybody tests. So veterans come into the process with bonus points associated with their service. And so as they test, then they receive those additional bonus points that tend to move them into the higher echelons of the strata so that they are in the universe most likely to be invited to interview.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker, Tom. I didn't mean to catch you by surprise.
Okay. I'm Tom Splitger, San Diego County Veteran Service Officer, and I'm Mr. Chair, committee members. I'm also a two-time past president of the California Association of County Veteran Service Officers, and I'm the vice president of the National Association of County Veteran Service Officers. A County Veteran Service Officer, I'll refer to him as a CVSO. His mission is as the communities that we serve in. Some CVSOs coordinate medical transportation for their clients. In other counties, the CVSOs serve on the local workforce investment board. And yet other counties, a CVSO may be responsible for the pickup and delivery of prescription medication, as well as producing stand-downs for the homeless vets. But in every county, the CVSO is an advocate for veterans, their dependents, and survivors. Our primary role is to provide comprehensive benefit eligibility assessment, claim guidance, case management services, and thorough preparation, development, completion, and filing of benefit applications. We also monitor the benefit claim until it is decided by the VA. We explain the VA's decision to the client and assist in appeals preparation when necessary. Recognizing our moral and ethical responsibilities to serve our veterans and their families to the best of our abilities, CVSOs are thoroughly trained, tested, and accredited by the VA to represent our clients. We have a cross-accreditation that started through the National Association of County Veteran Service Officers, in which we were accredited by DAV, AMVETS, TRIA, VVA, and the Military Order of the Purple Heart. In the state, the American Legion and VFW is starting to cross-accredit the CVSOs. The advantage to this is whenever a veteran comes in and uses the power of attorney of any of those organizations, we have instant access to the VA records. If we were not cross-accredited, we would not have that information. Thus, we could not help the client as much as we possibly could. In addition, we have challenging continuing education requirements that we have to meet yearly in order to keep the cross-accreditation going. The services we provide our veterans also benefit the state and the communities. Last year, CVSOs generated more than $299 million in new federal benefit dollars for our clients. These benefits turn over multiple times to generate tax revenues for government, support private sector jobs, increase revenue for local businesses, and generally enhance the well-being of our communities. As a sidelight, a VA IG finding stated that when a client had an advocate or a service rep, they would gain $4,000 a year more than if they applied on their own. So this just stands more amplification for county veteran service officers and veteran service organizations because they do benefit the client much more financially. Augmenting monthly incomes for veterans and their families and enrolling veterans in VA health care, readjustment counseling, and substance abuse treatment, homeless services, and countless other programs funded by the federal government benefits both state and local governments by saving millions of dollars annually through cost avoidance. These savings are difficult and not impossible to quantify. CVSOs receive no federal funding, nor are they a mandated state program. However, we act as CalVet's distributed network for outreach, claim initiation, and claim development. We conduct community outreach and are often the initial contact for the VA benefit system for many of California's veterans. Through our cross-accreditation and assignment of POAs, we forward claims to the various veteran service organizations. And also, the AmeriCorps program that CDVA started this year, the AmeriCorps Volunteers, we have 16 in San Diego County. What they have done for us in this last January to July reporting period is their outreach, them going out into the community through the Yellow Ribbon programs, county or city fairs, street fairs, reaching out to the veterans, enabled my staff to generate more than 700 initial claims. Jobs we used to do in the outreach, we now are allowing, or we need AmeriCorps workers. We're using them to do our outreach. Some of the counties, unfortunately, because of the cutback in funding, et cetera, from the state and the county budgets, can't do any outreach at all. They are just, they can barely keep up with the demands that come into their offices. So we keep talking of outreach, but the danger we have is, do we have the people to handle the results of all the outreach efforts? I mean, everything we're doing is absolutely great, but can we handle the results of those efforts? There's nothing worse than having someone sitting around for 3, 4, or 5 months before they can even sit down with an advocate to work on a claim. So these are some things that we have to try to balance out when we look at that. California counties currently spend $21.4 million annually to fund the CVSOs, yet the state only returns $2.6 million. Here we are working on the majority of the state's veterans, yet the state is only investing $2.6 million back to the CVSOs to help support that effort. I think that's a pretty good return on money when you figure we brought $299 million back to the state, and it's only costing the state $2.6 million. So I think there could be a little better balance. If there was more money coming to the CVSOs, there could be a greater return to the state also. We've experienced layoffs, budget cuts. Consolidation with other programs is cost-saving measures. As stated earlier, some of our people are part-time. Some offices have been eliminated because of budget cuts. And as the new veterans are returning to civilian life, our workload continues to expand. Even though the total number of veterans may be dropping, the demands for our services are increasing because of the economy. In addition, our increased workloads in the multiple protracted military deployments during this time of war, the military stop-loss measures, service members' repeated exposure to traumatic events, the VA's pending claims inventory, and job unavailability have created challenges for veteran and service providers alike. I mean, we really have a juggling of things to do. These factors make our work more difficult, more time-consuming, and are more vitally important to veterans and their families. We recognize that government alone can't solve the problem, so we need to work with, because of the budget cuts, et cetera, we have to foster better public-private partnerships with the veteran service organizations, with other government agencies, with private organizations to help coordinate these efforts. And again, I say my fear is that we just will not have the workforce to meet the demands that could be placed on us through the outreach programs. So we feel that the state of California should focus services on the entire veterans population. specifically the Veteran Services, because of the demands. Push programmatic decisions and directions to the lowest level. Let the VSOs and let the CVSOs make decisions rather than having to be everything coordinated from higher up. And to provide support and leadership to ensure our returning service members receive the very highest quality services that they not only earned, but they are entitled to. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions at all? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next panel will address nonprofit veteran service organization programs and proposals. In Veterans Claims Outreach, we have Amy Fairweather, Director of Policy, Swords to Plowshares, Bobby Price, Commander, VFW, Veterans of Foreign Wars, Scott McKee, Department Service Officer, American Legion, and Mel Posey, Northern Area Service Officer Coordinator and former State Commander of AMVETS. So we'll start off with Ms. Fairweather.
Thank you, and thank you, Chairman Cook and the panel for having us. I have my stopwatch here to help out and make sure that we get make sure the trains are running on time. You know, our colleague Tom Spiltberger, I could really feel what he was saying about the capacity and just how difficult it is to represent these veterans. It is exceedingly complex. And some of the talk that Yuli was talking about the plans for the VA to sort of streamline this is just wonderful, but there's a little bit of danger when you talk about ease of use. I would never, ever suggest that a veteran represent themselves. It's a very, very complex process, and even as you yourself said, you know, you were befuddled by it. So that said, you know, we know that it's a complex process. It's swords to plowshares, and by the way, if you're not familiar with our work, we do employment and training services. We house over 200 homeless veterans on any given night. We have mental health programs. And unlike our partners in employment and training as well, and unlike many of our partners in the California Association of Veteran Service Agencies, we also have legal services. We have a staff of attorneys, licensed attorneys, who are expert in the fields of VA claims and also, very importantly, discharge review and discharge upgrade, change of service of character. They are, as I said, licensed attorneys. We are seeing these cases be increasingly complex. The young veterans who are coming home with multiple issues, both psychological, physical, mental health, issues in a single claim. We're also seeing more and more complex issues with our aging veterans whose diabetes and other issues related to their service many years ago are getting more and more complicated. We follow what's happening at the federal level. Our attorneys study what's going on, work with the Office of General Counsel, work with Congress to improve laws and regulations, and to, when they pass them, to interpret them and share that information with our colleagues. One of the things that was discussed was a Veterans Academy in California. I think what we know right now is we're stuck with a very complex system and a whole lot of vets coming home and needing help. All of us are struggling with that. What we need to do is make it as easy as possible for as many people as possible, as many CVSOs, as many VSO claims representatives, as many pro bono attorneys to be able to practice, to perfect a claim, and to provide our California veterans with the best representation they can. Our staff also do quite a few appeals, and therefore we see some of the shortfalls in a claim that is not perfected and then takes forever. I just want to share with you, we really want to work with the CDVA and with our partners in terms of this whole idea of a Vet Rep Academy and raising the bar in terms of our services. We provided a free course through the Practicing Law Institute. This is the coursework. The first 3 hours satisfies the requirements of accreditation by the VA. We trained over 750 attorneys throughout the state. The VA's Office of General Counsel accredited about 400 of them. We have signed up 42 for our pro bono services. What we would like to do is share this with all of our CVSOs and our VSOs. It's absolutely free on the internet at the PLI website. And then I think what we can do together in terms of adding value to this training is working with that very, generous yet limited funding for a Vet Rep Academy and add value to it. Have regional trainings, have times when we can have webinar-based groups where we can talk amongst ourselves and have all of our agencies talk, learn from one another, because this is no easy task. And no veteran, especially a veteran who, is not a retired colonel, a veteran who's young or old, who is suffering with physical and mental health disabilities, can possibly respond to these kinds of forms from the VA. It's just too much to ask. And with that, I will pass on to my colleagues.
How are you, sir?
Good. How about yourself?
Fine. I want to recognize you for your service. Thank you, sir. And Marty Block slipped out of here, but he's my representative from Chula Vista, and of course we have Ms. Atkins from San Diego. So we're well represented on this committee.
Mr. Block will be marked down as unauthorized absence. So.
As you said, my name is Bobby Price, Commander of Veterans of Foreign Wars, Department of California. I served 25 years, United States Navy, retired limited duty officer, with service in Iran, Desert Storm, Somalia, and Southern Watch. So I've been around the circle a little bit. The VFW Department of California's background is I represent 89,000 combat veterans, 22,000 of their relatives, 351 posts. And our mission, of course, is to service to our veterans, service to our community, legislative action, and youth development. I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the budget and what happened with the budget this year and its devastating effects. Dr. Splitgerber hit the nail right on the head. Dr. Pan has talked about what do you see as the choke holes or the choke points in what's going on in our veteran community. Well, flat out, sir, it's money. And every time you take it away from veterans, then it's going to cause another choke in that process. I do want to say that the California Department of Veterans Affairs is one of the finest organizations that I have ever dealt with, and working across the country, we have some of the finest services that can be delivered. However, because they are appointed people, sometimes they are not allowed to speak, and when it comes to budget cuts and things like that, they can only speak so far, and then they have to take the bait. That's why I'm here to talk to you, why veteran service organizations were created, because we are the voice of those government agencies as well as our veterans. The first thing I want to talk about is the $31 million cut that the CDVA took. $14 million of it stopped essentially the two homes in Redding and Fresno. Fresno, 87,000 veterans in the city, more than a 15% unemployment rate. Homelessness is running rampant. That particular facility could have housed 150 veterans, provided 240 jobs, and other services that are involved with the operation of a veterans home. Redding, 17,500 veterans in Shasta County. There's over 500,000 veterans in the 5 counties surrounding that area. There is no veteran home closer than Yountville. Yountville is set up for 1,600 beds. They have 800 patients. What's happening is caps are killing us. When the homes are capped, they can only hold so many patients because they don't have the personnel to provide the care that's required by the 3 certifying agencies that they have to go through for their licensing. When you don't have people in the beds, you don't get the money coming in from the federal government. Again, we're here to protect those veterans who need us the most. Those 2 sites were decided to put there for a reason. Now they're delayed to 2013. Now, does that mean they open at 2013 and begin their licensing process? Because that takes another couple of years. I was involved with Chula Vista, and I know what it took, and the incident with Barstow slowed things down, but you understand what I'm saying. So it could be 2015 before you ever get a veteran in there. That makes it ripe for other budget cuts, sell it off, do something with it other than what we originally decided to do. And as this committee sits, its responsibility is to fight for those veterans and understand that the veterans paid their bills with their life. They put it on the line. They need our help. And this country and this state should never turn their back on them. VFW roles in claims representation. That's another good subject. We have 381 posts, which would indicate 381 service officers. Each one of those posts is required to have a service officer, and every one of those service officers are trained. The VFW Department of California sends trainers all over the state to make sure they're properly trained to fill out these applications that was just mentioned. Without a claims representative from the CVSOs, the VSOs, and in some cases the CDVA, the veteran will walk because the paperwork is too onerous to mess with. Our job is to provide the outreach into the community, along with the American Legion and the other service organizations. Once we provide the outreach and we make contact, we make the initial package up, we make sure that all the evidence is there and ready for submission to the VA, or the VA, the regional office. We have 7 certified or accredited service officers at the 3 ROs in San Diego, Los Angeles, Oakland, and we have a satellite office in Sacramento. Those 7 people and the work behind them, which would be the CVSOs bringing in their applications that they submit, and we provide the conduit into the VA, as well as the service officers that we have in the field. I lost sync. The point that I'm trying to make is once it's filled out, those 7 people generate in the neighborhood of $50 million per year in new claims and $200 million per year in ongoing claims. Now that's just those 7 people. The budget that you just cut, or not you, the Assembly, from the CDVA, which cut many millions of dollars from the CVSOs. CVSOs need to get $5 million or more in their subvention funds, and then they can enter into contracting negotiations or grants to veteran service organizations. We're being hit just as hard as anybody else with the recession. The money that we use, which is currently about $560,000 to work those offices and provide some sort of stipend to the volunteers out in the field, because gasoline's $4 a gallon. They're starting to not volunteer because they can't afford it. So we give them $100 or $200 or whatever we can give them. But money that we can bring in helps us do the outreach that is necessary. 2 million veterans. We've only got to 13%. We're below the national average. If we can at least get to the national average, that would be nice. What I'm trying to say is over $1 billion comes in from the federal government into the state of California. And in simple math, if you took a 10% sales tax on that, that's $100 million that goes into the general fund. And the final thought I want to leave you with is there's 3 agencies in California that pay for themselves: the DMV, the Department of Highway Patrol, and the veterans of this community. No funds should ever be cut, and we're asking you to fight to get them back soon, get our homes back on track, get our CVSOs the money that they need, and then provide assistance to the veteran service organizations that are working as hard as they can to do what we can for veterans. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your passionate presentation. I'm very sympathetic with you. I really like to see cost-benefit analysis provided by finance on a lot of the veterans bills that go through, but it wasn't available. By the way, I have a special button that I pushed. It alerted the Shore Patrol, and they went out, and they made sure that Assembly Member Block came back immediately. So, do you have a question, Mike?
I didn't know you knew I was gone.
We always know.
Bobby, I have a question for you. would you support a tax on millionaires that went to veteran services? You personally, not the organization?
Well, that's a political question, but yeah. I would support anywhere that gets money anyhow to veterans of this country because they've earned it, whether it comes from millionaires, whether it comes from me. Assemblymember Atkins mentioned the large corporations that are doing things to hire veterans. Well, I got news for you. If they don't have contracts from the veterans from the federal government, they don't hire anybody. I work in that industry. I work for Science Applications International. If that money's not available, then there's no jobs. So,
thank you very much for your answer. By the way, Mr. Conity was very upset. I think he's the only millionaire in the group here today. So, thank. Oh, hi, Pete. Commander. Our next speaker is. Yeah, he wasn't paying any attention to me either. Scott McKee, thank you very much for being with us today.
Mr. Chairman, Assembly members, it's a privilege and honor to be here to speak with you on behalf of the American Legion. My name is Scott McKee. I am a 30-year Navy Reserve veteran, served in the Persian Gulf. Like Commander Bobby Price here, we're the beginning of the new generation of Persian Gulf War veterans. They're entering into our service organizations. I also have to acknowledge the fact that Jim Rowald is here also, my past boss. I used to work for the Veterans of Foreign Wars, and I work for the American Legion. It's a great honor to be here, and I would also like to acknowledge my state commander, Hugh Crooks, here in the front row. And behind him is our new chairman of our foundation for the American Legion, Al Lennox. And we've got quite a few other colleagues and people here that are giving us a lot of support. First off, in California alone, based on the end of last year, we got 1.9 million veterans living in the state of California, with the greatest concentration down in the Southern California area. The state's divided, just like our regional offices are divided into 3 areas. San Diego handles everything from the Orange County border through Riverside County all the way down to Tijuana. You've got Los Angeles County that handles everything from the north of the Orange County border all the way up to San Luis Obispo. And then Lucky Oakland gets to have the other 27, 30 counties. A lot of square mileage for veterans organizations to cover, as well as county veteran service offices. With this amount of veterans coming in, a lot of times a part of their frustration is the fact that they cannot get to a service office, whether it be one at the regional office or at the hospital or at one of the counties. Some of the counties, unfortunately, I've heard a lot of bad press coming out about the northern area of California as these budget cuts impinge upon the county service offices. We're seeing a lot more of these counties, they're shutting down the county veteran service offices, which mean, if you look at the map up here, see all that square mileage a veteran has to travel. If you live in the Southern California area, and if you're on a pension or you're on compensation, a very small amount of compensation, you're no longer able to work, you have to depend on public transportation to get to and from. If you have to have a hearing, it's normally at a regional office. You've got to travel there. The amount of travel becomes an impingement to the veteran and to their dependents in filing a claim. So therefore, it has become a part of the service organizations to be able to pick up the slack on that. However, there's more rope than there isn't any more slack left in the rope. Just alone, since '06, the American Legion's brought in $1.8 billion back into the state of California in veterans' claims. Yeah, it's true. The veteran does not pay an income tax on that claim. However, that veteran does buy and purchase and pay rent, maybe a mortgage or whatever. Our most vulnerable population now is becoming more and more our World War II and our Korean War vets. Right now, they're being hit with all sorts of programs, all sorts of education or annuity programs are coming out claiming that they can help these veterans out. And the ones they're going after are the elder veterans. We get many, many calls into our offices during the day. They've signed contracts with these annuity people, and money's being taken out of their pockets. What we're saying here is that there needs to be more of us so that these organizations cannot pop up. Legal as they might be, maybe illegal, who knows. Also on top of that, you've got, right now, 3 wars going on. You might call them conflicts, you might call them wars. I call them wars because they're shooting bullets, they're shooting bombs, etc. And these men and women are being affected. We're going to have all these men and women, as the President and the administration's downsizing and returning veterans home. They're going to be filling our streets. They're going to be filling our jobs, or looking for jobs. They're going to be filling up and looking for assistance. They're born and raised here in California like myself. They're going to come home. A lot of veterans may end up wanting to come here because California is still known as the land of opportunity, especially in the Southern California area. Just in my offices alone, in the 3 regional offices, which include the hospitals and our posts, we've seen at the end of December 2010 a 20% increase over last year, which was 8.6. Come together on that, and just since our convention in June, we're up 23% in claims filing into our office. 72% of those claims come from the county veteran service offices. We need and we must have the county veteran service offices, because if they can't get to my office in LA or Oakland or San Diego, who's the closest one to them? And that is the county. You start closing down county service offices, and I know this committee does not do that, but our local governments do, due to budget constraints, which the trickle-down theory still does work. Where are these veterans going to go? Now, it's true, in the regional office, we have to be in the regional offices, because our job alone in the regional office is to take care of those claims and look for the mistakes the Veterans Administration has made. We are the ones who dig into the claim and try and get that veteran their just due benefits. I think part of the problem is the lack of education on not only our local government officials, sorry to say our state and our federal officials. They don't fully understand what a lot of veterans go through when they come home or when they leave the service. I tell as many as possible, if you're getting ready to get out of the service, I hope you're looking for work. And if you're coming to the state of California, and it's a sad reality, look for a state that has jobs available. Even though I don't want to see them leave this state. Even though since I live and work in LA, I'd like to see a less population growth on the freeways. But the monetary gains that we've done with the American Legion this past year is $565 million. Our total for July 2011 was $51.3 million back in, which I know the state needs, so does local government. Last year, we were only at $40.9 million. We've had a 13% increase in federal dollars returned to the state of California. We work quite well with each other. When I just visited my Oakland office again, I go down to San Diego and visit those folks in the hospitals. Every one of the service officers have a congenial and a collegial relationship with each other. We also defer to each other on certain claims. Because right here, Amy showed you a little book. I brought big books. This is the law that covers, with some case histories, the VA. We as county, the 7 service officers, the VFW, I don't know how many are with AMVETS and other organizations, and the 13 that serve in our regional offices, we've got to know this. Every year we go to training. When I was at the VFW, twice a year training. The California Department of Veterans Affairs has training all the time. We can't keep up with it sometimes. The VA is changing so dramatically and quickly, we have to study it and keep it on hand at all times so we know what we're talking about. We've got to know just as much as a rating specialist. And as a service officer advocate, we've got to know more than what's in here. We've got to know some state benefits. We've got to know some county benefits. When a veteran is near the end of the life, we've got to teach the dependents. When that veteran didn't talk about his or her war service, we got to tell them about what's available now that mom or dad has passed away and what their benefits are. This is our job. We don't end right there. The main thing is that we need to have that funding put back into the Veterans Affairs for the state of California. Because sooner or later, these 20 and 30-year-olds are going to be my age, 50,